to the RunRX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the RunRX podcast. I'm Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. And Valerie, we've been getting a lot of questions from people that have been starting with the membership that are maybe 3, 4, they're just the first month, right? The first 4 weeks of the first 12 weeks of running this new movement. And they say, Valerie, I don't feel like I'm running. I say that with such drama because that's really what it feels like. You're like, I'm doing all this work, but I don't feel like I'm running. So what should we be feeling? What does it feel like to run?
So that's a great question. And, if I've never thought about it, when I used to do clinics all the time, I would always ask, what is running? And so many people will answer with an emotion. Running is my escape. Running is my time to myself. Running is my joy. No one ever describes running as a movement. You just go for a run, put shoes on, go running. And that's what we've done for so long. So when you first start learning how to run, you've actually never really thought about what does running feel like. But you kind of imagine what you want it to feel like. Like all of us want to look like that picture where the person's in the air and their legs are like way out, and it just looks like they're going to the glory, And so in our mind, I think we all thought that's what we were doing, right? That's kind of...
You think you're going to fly.
Yeah. So I want to, so then people want to feel, this is what I think. I think people want to feel the flight phase. People want to feel that air time. They want to feel that they're leaping or bounding or, extend. They want all that because that's what we picture running to be, is that, that movement of big, if someone's got long legs, they'll always say, oh my gosh, they must be a great runner with a long stride. So we've been taught to think about running as this big, long extension or reach movement. So here I come, you take the RunRX course and Valerie's making you pull your foot up under you. And you're literally like the road runner before he takes off. Like your feet are really moving, but you're just not going anywhere.
Right.
And I say to people all the time, this feeling right here in place is what running actually feels like. Like when you run, you can only sense when your foot is on the ground. And that's where that great rebound comes in, right? But if I've never rebounded off the ground, not just in running, but ever, I don't really have that frame of reference. And then the second part is running. Running itself, by definition, with pose, is free falling. So have you ever really free fallen? Most of us only when we trip and fall. Unless maybe you've skied or done some, bike racing where you've actually felt that you jumped off an airplane, maybe.
Yeah.
Most of us do not spend any amount of time trying to fall on purpose. And I can tell you, here's the one thing I'll say to you guys. Running itself, when you do connect with that falling, is an amazing feeling. It's a connection, but it's between you and gravity. And so I can teach you the physical pull. And I tell people all the time, what you're feeling right now is what you'll always feel. But the reality is when you can connect with the gravity part, you feel a sensation of, like that peppermint patty commercial, You're falling, you're connected with if you want to call it your core or your center. And it is, your feet are just pulling really quickly off the ground. They're light. Like you said that earlier, like, you feel light. You feel like you're flying. It's a great feeling. And to get there, you have to go through a little bit of patience and practice.
Yeah. So before we talk about patience and practice, I kind of want to tell a little story that when I was running before I met Valerie, I was a slow runner, right? Pretty darn slow runner, somewhere around. And I say pretty darn slow runner because I realized I was spending so much time on the ground. I was between like 11 and 12 minutes, right? So I was spending way too much time on the ground. And I happened to be on a business trip, and I was on this God, it had to have been about a 60-degree hill. It was a really good hill. And I ran up it and then I ran down it. And when I ran down it, I was told that as you go down the hill, and this was before I met you, but the idea of just to let gravity go and let your feet go. Let your feet turn underneath you, right? Was how I was basically at the time coached to run downhill. And I did it. And I was scared and adrenaline was rushing and I was going like, ah, right? And I'm running down this hill. And when I got down to the bottom, I was out of breath and I'm like practically had tears in my eyes. And I've told people that was the closest I ever got to a runner's high because it was free fall. And then of course I met you and realized actually that I believe that is the runner's high. It's that feeling of just air and lightness and letting it go, trusting that you're not going to faceplant, that you'll be okay. And so I kind of want to tell people like, go out there and find a big hill and let it go. Let yourself go. But that brings me up to the second part of that, with the perception and how long should it take before I mean, let's take two people. I'm the type of person where I'm going to listen to everything you say and I'm going to listen to it twice and I'm going to do everything you say. Can I get the perception in the first 12 weeks of working with you? And then you have the other person that maybe half listens and does their own running. Like, can I really do it in 12 weeks?
Yes. Oh, sure.
Okay.
And we find, I mean, most of our runners, this is the best part, is that we call them these aha moments, where in the beginning, they're like, I'm not feeling it, because they're in their own way, and there's just so much.
Yeah, they're resisting.
Yeah, and we know this, so that's why we tell you guys, don't run in the beginning, because you're just, and after the third week, we find almost everyone says, okay, I think I'm starting to feel it when I'm doing it right. So that's like the first step of that awareness. Like I can definitely sense a difference in my running. And then we start to see the next step where they're like, oh, I held it. I felt it and I actually held it. And that's like that aha triumph moment where I tell them, now from now forward, you'll feel it more often. And instead of thinking about it, it'll just be what you're doing during your run. And so for many of our runners, we see that by the time they finish the 12 weeks, they're like, okay, I finally feel kind of what I'm supposed to feel like in my run. So I know when I'm doing it. Now I'm just ready to actually, there's that next level of now I'm going to keep improving that perception. But that first step is just where they start to feel like, oh, this does feel different. Now, how do I hold it?
Yeah. And there's that, the stages I call it with is when you first start out, you kind of feel like a platypus. You feel really awkward. You feel kind of like flat-footed and I feel stupid. And then you kind of move into sort of a pony phase and a little bit like a flamingo because you're holding the pose all the time. And then it's like that last phase is, I call it like a baby cheetah. Like you're just starting to feel it. And the idea is to grow into the full cheetah where you're just out there, just enjoying your run and feeling it all the time. So we hope you guys, if you have any questions, want us to take up a question on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit. Valerie goes live on her Facebook page every Wednesday at 10:30 Central Time. You can send any questions in that she'll answer on that Ask Me Anything. And possibly in February and March, she might be going live on her IGTV channel. So look for that. And if you haven't taken our RunRX quiz, please do so. It's at www.runrxquiz.com and you'll be on our mailing list and we'll let you know when things are coming, like the next podcast. So thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.